Uh-oh, that didn't sound good.
Everybody wants a Audi 3.0T until they break or until you have to do some maintenance. So I got this 2012 Audi A6, 143,000 miles with, of course, the 3.0T supercharged engine. Marvelous engine. However, there are some downfalls that I want to teach the DIY mechanic from a dealership mechanic's point of view. Now, this is going to be interesting for me as well. I do have tools, but I don't have a rack. Thankfully, that at about 143,000 miles or less, PCV water pump thermostat will need to be eventually replaced. So, that is what I'm going to show you how to do.
Here in my garage, you know what I like more about Audis? Knowledge. This car does have the intake manifold runners stuck open. So what I'm hoping is somebody either did a PCV already and just didn't put the intake manifold runners back in correctly, and I'll show you how to do that. And then the water pump isn't leaking, but I think the bearing in it is going bad because it's pretty oily down there, and the water pump pulley is just wobbling back and forth. So I don't want that to break when I'm giving her the beans. The vehicle also does have a check engine light, I'm assuming, for the intake manifold runners stuck open or closed. I forget which one it was. But it does run kind of like shit, but hopefully that'll fix it. Yeah, I think that's it. Now, back to the car. I did, with the cabin air filter, change that. I took a look at the engine air filter, and it was dirty, so I just tossed that. I did have a spare intake and aftermarket filter, one of those, not Canon, but same style, like don't have to replace, you just wash it. It's pretty oily in the front, so that's something I'm gonna have to clean off. And then the engine valley is filled with coolant. I probably can't show you, but once I get a light and start taking shit apart, I'll be able to show you that. But let's take a look at some parts. Now, as you can see, I did get the big box from ECS Tuning. Not sponsored or anything, but I just figured they've been around for a long time. The prices weren't too bad. We got the water pump. We have a full liquid moly oil change. We have the direct injector fuel cleaner. I've never used this before, but I figured might as well just put it in there and it can't possibly hurt it. We have our injector seal kits, one of those while you're there things, and drain plug and gasket, our thermostat, oil filter, coolant, and our PCV. So starting off with the easiest stuff first, we're going to go with the Liquid Moly DG or Dijectron gasoline direct injection cleaner. Add straight to gasoline, look to the directions. Just literally just says crack it open and put her in there. So that is what we're gonna do. That's not fucking sketchy at all. Welcome to Dayton. What the fuck? I was watching them through the reflection. So just pop a pull tab. Oh.
Alright. And she gonna eat. Dude, I feel so fucking weird just videoing this. And there goes that fucking that Yukon that pulled up. What the fuck, dude? That's so weird. Every last drop. Alright. Oh hey, that's another thing I can fix, is super gluing that thing back in and make sure I'm washing this out when I do a detail. Alright, so like I said, this is going to be probably a few videos or one really long video. I don't know yet, but I'm just going to explain everything like you are somebody trying to learn and see how it goes. Just give you all my little tips and tricks, and hopefully my experience can help other people out in the future. Alright, so first thing I did, remove these covers. First tool. Like I said, we're at home, so we're going to use as many home tools as we can. There will need to be some specialty tools that will make the job a whole lot easier, so you can just write those with your budget of cost of repair, which is still, you doing this is going to save you so much money in the long run. So this is also why I'm trying to show it. I know a lot of people have done it before, but one preliminary thing you may want to do is take off this heat shield for this gas line. We are going to need access to shortly. After unscrewing these hose clamps, we are just going to pop off this vacuum line and try and get her out. Now that that is off, we can start to remove this purge valve assembly and vacuum lines. Now that that area is freed up, we can start working down the sides and then into the middle. Alright, so one helpful tool would be one of those little pincher pliers with the C's. I would recommend having that. I would also recommend you open up your coolant cap before you start taking coolant lines off. Then there's just a bracket with a T30 right there. And yeah. So here we come into one of our first struggles. I don't know if you can see that, but the supercharger tensioner is pretty damn close to this core support. You could put it in service position, but I'm not doing that, and I'd rather either go buy a tool or get one. So ideally you want to fully drain the system, but because I'm at home, I only have a little like oil change thing, so I'm just gonna push this aside and move that away. We are not going to get that belt off, the main drive belt off, because we are going to need a special tool called a M10 triple square. So I'm going to need to get those tomorrow. I am also going to grab a belt tensioner tool. It is a really long object with a very shallow socket, so you can tension it like that. So that's a start of 2 special tools. This is primarily what I am working with here. So again, just calculate. I have some homeowner stuff tools, but not straight automotive tools just yet. So next we are going to work on getting the intake off so we can actually have room to use that tool once we get it. Alright, cool cat and kittens. So it's a new day, went to work, got a belt tensioner tool to take the tension off. You don't need this, but it is helpful. It is just like another belt tool just to help put it on. A pry tool, a long pry tool. I think I have one, but here, but I got that home as well. Focus.
Hocus pocus focus, please. Alright, M10 sets, preferably stubby. 2 vice grips to get the supercharger off. If you remember recently, or most recent, I said C clamp tool. This is what this looks like. Hose clamp pliers, but pliers also work. Screwdriver, a longer, lower profile 3/8 ratchet. I don't think I'll need it. I think you will need a hose clamp plier to get the bottom coolant line off of the coolant cross pipe. So I got that, so I don't curse myself for forgetting it. Some silicone lube, a not a pry tool, a pick, a 90-degree or electric ratchet. Not necessary, but it'll speed up taking off the water pump. A small 1/4 inch with a Harbor Freight special long T30. Highly, 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 highly recommend getting this. Also, not necessary, but a T30 with a bit, or a bit driver with a T30, and then a 17mm wrench to take off the fuel lines, and finally a small metal pin to hold the tensioner in place. A couple other things you might need is a bungee cord to help hold tension on the serpentine belt or the main drive belt. The supercharger belt, I'll usually just take it off or let it hang, not important, but sometimes I will try and use a bungee cord on the main drive belt because it is kind of all spaghetti wired in there. To be using our tensioning tool, possibly our long pry bar, and our pin tension. Actually, we're not going to use the pin tensioner just yet to hold it in. So it's a pretty tight fit in there. But it's on there. So I'm just going to tension this real quick, take the belt off, and see. So if you did everything correctly, you should be able to take off your supercharger now. One other thing before we try and take off the supercharger and belt, don't forget this cheeky little bugger. It's at the back, you'd never see it. It's under all these vacuum connectors, but that'll get you. Also, oh, come on. Get your throttle body off. Holy moly. Alright, so this is gonna suck with one person, and especially if you're short. But just letting you know, this is going to have coolant in it. There are 2 intercoolers on either side of the supercharger, and these bolts that the supercharger go onto and get nutted down, those can pierce the intercooler. So be careful, especially when putting it back on. And if taking it off, you fucking broke your back, just be sure when you put it back down, it is in those holes, or those studs are in those holes. This is really, really gonna fucking suck. Actually, it wasn't too bad. And minimal coolant drippage coming out because we drained it last night. Or at least did the front coolant pipes last night. Now, what I am seeing, how to tell if this has been tampered with before. So, there should be a cover right here, a little felt cover. Missing that. We are missing a bolt for this bracket.
Yes. Here. This is what causes your intake manifold runner stuck open fault. This is what happens when you don't push in these little flaps before tightening the intake manifold. It sets a check engine light and it runs like dog shit. I also do see this. I might be just replacing this part because that ain't factory. I'm sure it works, but I would much rather just spend money and replace it. The clips are broken anyways, so I might just end up replacing that. So next step, get yourself a bungee cord, attach it to the belt so we can tension it and break these 3 M10 triple squares loose. Don't take it off yet. And then we're going to work on tensioner. Get a light. The tensioner right there, and tension that. Get the little plug, and yep. Now, if you can't get your tool to get onto these, you can either use a pry tool to pry the fan shroud a little bit. It doesn't have much room to play with, but it's got some. Or you can use your pry tool to just spin this pulley until you can get access. Alright, with the tensioner, I don't know if I'll be able to show you, but the tensioner goes, well, the tensioner pin goes right on top to the left of the tensioner, and when you're using the tensioner, you're going from, there it is, left to right. So you may be wondering, why are you doing a water pump if it's not leaking? Like I said earlier, grease is leaking and it's wobbling, but to get this pipe off, having this pulley off like that is going to give us a little bit more room. So now all it is 7 T30s and a vacuum line right there. Alright, so get the top bolts off using an electric ratchet and a T30. Just be careful. I would break them loose first before using power tools. And then to get the bottom ones off, I'm going to probably be using this mini 1/4 inch ratchet. So as you can see there, got it off. Now we have plenty of room, and you can see that this impeller, we could put vacuum to it, but I don't have that tool here. But the impeller is very sticky. It does not want to spin at all. But yeah. So my next thing would be to start removing this coolant cross pipe, and see if I have to order one or not, because this sometimes likes to break, and yeah, it's pretty much just 2 T30s on either side, 2 coolant hoses on either side, and then there is a third one down there, which is a biatch. Okay, a couple of tips so far. Remove this secondary air housing clip so you can access to both of these bolts. If it is not coming out, if this coolant hose is not wanting to come out, lube, doing this, lube, doing this, lube, doing this. If you're starting to put a lot of force on it, fuck it. I'm not risking it. I'm not breaking something. However, this one, I was about ready to give up on this side too, but just lube, wiggle it, lube, wiggle it, lube, wiggle it, push it in, push it, sounds very sexual, but that's what you gotta do. I did see some copper C's coupling, I don't fucking know, it was some sort of copper material, I think, as an extra to the seal, so probably it didn't, or it was leaking from there and they just put sealant on it, so kind of made it a bitch, but I'll probably get those seals, get the coolant cross pipe seals, and then we'll check how the intake manifolds look. Alright, so after getting those 2 bolts out on that side, 2 bolts out on that side, and I did end up taking off that hose, but I'm just going to do that and call it good, because now we have access to the thermostat, and nothing broke, but I did drop a bolt. So, and now it's like behind the AC compressor and inside the bracket, so I need to get a magnet, which I don't have here. Next, I'm going to start to recommend covering your intake manifolds, because now we're going to start to get into this area and into the valley, and just don't want anything going down in there and have to fish for that either. So started to work on the fuel lines, just T30s, 17. If it starts making a screeching sound, it's this adapter coming out. So I think that's a 13 or a 14. I think it's a 14. Tighten that back in. Started happening with these two. I think that means somebody tightened the ever-living shit out of these. I also did find that this connector for the fuel rail is kaput. So probably gonna need to fix that before that sets a fault and have to do all this over again. But now just working on getting the intake manifolds out, just some vacuum lines, connectors, and yeah, it was just T30s and 10s and then 17s for the fuel lines. Okay, so why does the car set a check engine light for the code variable intake manifold stuck open or stuck closed? It is these flaps right here. These are stuck in place and they are fixed in place. I'm gonna have to check the direction. I honestly, that's a tough one, because those metal plates can be put in either way. I'm gonna have to look up the right way before I put it back in, and I'll make sure I show you guys that. But these in the actual manifold are vacuum operated, so you might just want to spray some, like, maybe some silicone lube, or brake clean it and then silicone lube and in this mechanism right here, and just actuate this a few times. Maybe brake clean in here a little bit just to break up some of the carbon that might make it stick. But if you don't push in this flap before you tighten it down, it'll set that fault and the vacuum operated won't work. And you're only getting that much air at idle, so you're not getting all the air you need. But that is the biggest thing. And also, like, triple check before you put the supercharger back on, because stuff can move. But yeah, doing the same thing to the other side. Another thing with these is this is where the top of your injectors sit, right here, in those little holes. Sometimes these top of the O-ring of the injectors can come off inside of there. Just don't double gasket it and you'll be alright. Alright, got the intake manifolds out, got the fuel lines out. Just gonna start getting everything out of the way. We are going to the older ones of the older 3.0 Ts have plastic instead of metal pipes. Interesting. So probably gonna work on getting the thermostat out, then getting the vacuum lines. I can't do the injectors because I don't have an injector puller, so I'll have to buy one or borrow one and start working on the T30s for the PCV. There is a bolt right here for this breather hose or ventilation hose to the valve covers, and then for this coolant hose there should be one or two T30s. Probably gonna have to move this bracket out of the way and those connectors, and try not to break this secondary air hose, so that'll be fun. Alright, do a little time lapse. Got the thermostat out. This bitch Alright, so I can't get that out until so there are 2 bolts for this bracket, but only 1 bolt to get this coolant pipe out. So what I'm going to do is take the top one off, bend the bracket back enough to get this coolant hose out, and then when we put it back together, I'll bend it back. Found a 10 mil, so that was cool. But now we're ready to take this off. Just have one more T20. Alright. There we go. There's that boy. So there is a diaphragm in here. I will try and post a video of it right now, but sometimes if you hear a whistling noise, this plastic or rubber diaphragm inside of here is split and creating like vibrations through the rubber. That's the best I can give it to you. But yeah, here's the little vacuum tube, or yeah, I don't know. It's a fucking tube. Sometimes these can split, so you might want to take a close look at that. Make sure it's tight, because that can also cause a fault if that is broken. So, here is your valley. Pretty gross. So, what I usually do is I have a suction oil extractor, hook that up. But since I'm at home, I'm probably just gonna absorb all of it with towels and get like these big chunks out and clean the surface up and put the new PCV in. Try and get a new bolt for that 10mm bolt that was there. That shocked me, but I think that one 10mm bolt was tighter than all of the other surrounding bolts. So yeah, I'm gonna say that or the thermostat was why the valley was filled with coolant. Alright, so put the new PCV in. Okay, now we have gotten the PCV installed. Be sure you put the bracket on before you put the T30s on, or else you're gonna have to take it off. But now it's time to install your thermostat. Pretty simple. Just put her on down in there. And it should come with a gasket, but just always check. I don't know if many other car brands do this, but having the holes in your cowl, yeah, that's kind of cool. They're like, we know you're gonna have to work on it a lot. We'll at least make it easy to keep your bolts nearby. I also did notice this this bolt for the under the thermostat to the coolant cross pipe. That bolt was missing. So now we're just gonna zip this right in there. Even if it's right. Ooh, okay. You don't have to about this right when you're having all this, not really a power setting, it's just you're getting all the doors. Oh, you get that one. Alright, another little thing. This is not all exactly what I do at the dealer. I would be torquing everything down, but I don't have a 3/8 torque wrench here. I only have a torque wrench for wheels. So I just, after seeing the PCV be so loose, or was so loose, it's just kind of want to make sure everything's fucking tight. One other thing before you forget, tighten this clamp right there. But yeah. So to end this part of the video, we got the PCV in, thermostat in, and we just completely got it to the bare wires, just broke off the rest of the connector because it was just falling apart. So we need to get that. We need to get the tool to do the injectors. We need a new seal for this pipe, that pipe, that pipe, this pipe. We are going to get a new vent, and I also did order valve covers, so I don't know if that's going to be in this video or not, because she is a leaky girl. But yes, and spark plugs. Yippee! A new day and new parts. We got the connector for the fuel rail, got the O-ring for the cross pipe, and we've got the ventilation valve. So yeah, gonna start putting those on. So putting this coolant cross pipe back on, the best tool I have seen is a 1/4" ratchet with a Harbor Freight special 1/4" T30 set. I've gotten stubbies, I've gotten just regular 1/4" T30s, and then I've gotten the extended T30s like this. But if you're like me and you don't want to take off the front end, the Harbor Freight special T30 is the way to go. Couple things, or well, just one thing. You want to just get them started on one side, get them started on the other side, then tighten them down, because if it's not, or if it is tight on one side, then the other side is going to be a bitch to get on. Another thing to be mindful of on the driver's side coolant cross pipe, there is wiring harness and vacuum lines that you need to make sure you don't pinch, or else you have to take the whole thing off again and possibly fix whatever is broken. Alright, we got the coolant cross pipe on. We got the new sensor installed. Had to check the old ChatGPT for the right pin order, because I didn't take a picture and nobody on the internet could find it. And not only was the connector broke, the actual sensor is also broke, the little locking mechanism that keeps the connector on, so we are zip tying it. I'm gonna work on getting this little vacuum solenoid on, get those vacuum lines on, get the pulley for the water pump on, and then start putting the belts on. And then I got the new, actually I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna do the valve covers, do the spark plugs, and then I'm gonna put that on because I gotta take it off anyways to do the valve cover. So from my experience with putting on the water pump pulley, bolt it on, don't try and tighten it because it's just gonna spin. Take out your tensioner tool and put the belt on, make sure it's routed right. Also, a good thing to have that belt grabber tool, low profile deal, just to help you out in the tight places like right down in there. But once you get the belt on, if you just hold down on the belt right here and tighten these M10 triple squares, that is usually tight enough. I don't know if that was recording, but we got a new lens, 20mm, Viltrox 2.8 autofocus, so we're going to see how that goes today. I got some more gaskets, some more parts, but today we are going to work on the injectors. So to start, they have these little metal rings that go around the injectors. So take those out. Then you want to get a little slide tool. This is part T10-133-3 and T10-133-2. I will try and find the Amazon equivalent and link it to my Amazon mechanic DIY tool list. But you don't want to pull it off of this little nub right here because that is a press fit on ring, and those will come off. You can put them back on, but don't try and pull it from there. You want to pull it from under the plastic bit right there. So I'm just gonna show you how to do it once and then just repeat that process 6 times. So you definitely do just want to be careful. Just start really slow, not a lot of force, just babying them out there. And that is exactly why, focus, 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 hello? That is exactly why we pull the injectors out while we're here, because, focus, focus, I don't know why the fuck, but they are really, really dirty. Especially the tips. This can also cause misfires if they get clogged. But yeah, just a big, while you're there, just do your not your spark plug, your injector seals. Now, once you get them all out, you don't really need to take this off. However, we are going to want to remove this piece. I have found using a pick works the best. However, I cannot tell you how many times I have stabbed my finger right here from getting those off. So I'll get that off. And then there is one more little plastic ring that does already have a splice in it. So once you're done, I would take like a Scotch-Brite pad and just clean up the end and then especially the tip, and just try and get that as clean as possible. And then repeat the process for 6 injectors. So should look a little something like this. I did not have Scotch-Brite, so I just used a microfiber and some brake clean. Now I'm going to put the top plastic part on the injector and then the rubber part, and then we will get onto the bottom O-ring.
So, doesn't really matter what side goes on, just hope to God you don't fucking break it. But it's usually like a twist and wrap sort of technique. There. A little fucked, but I also don't think these are OEM. Yeah, made in China, not OEM. So we balling on a budget, but pretty easy. And then if I don't say it when I do it, I'm gonna say it now. You definitely want to use hella lube when putting the fuel rail / intake manifold back on when the injectors are seated in, because if these get pinched, this can cause a fuel leak, and then you have to take the supercharger off again. So here is the smaller O-ring. This is special tool, I don't know, but this is just for if you want to try and base something. T10133-6. That is the part number for this. So the idea is you're spreading out this O-ring. Now these are cone-shaped tubes, so one's bigger and one's smaller on each end. So what you're going to do is just find the smaller end, push it on, and then with the bigger end, you are going to slide it all the way to the end of this cone, just like this. Now you take your injector, try your best to line it up, and wiggle that O-ring right on to this. Now, it's not going to be flush just like the other one was. Now, what I would suggest doing is possibly while you're working on your next one is getting the next size up bigger and try and just compress this O-ring so slightly without rolling it up onto the edge, just so that starts to compress, and that'll make putting the injectors in a lot easier, and you know it's gonna slide right in. So after just a few seconds of compression, it's good enough. It's not as loose as it once was. There's not a huge raised gap now that's gonna catch the lip of the head. Just letting my last injector get compressed. To put them in, we are going to use tool T10133-9. But before we do that, it is a wise idea to get a wire brush and clean out the injector holes, just because while you're there, you might as well do it. This is the first time this has happened to me, but actually maybe the second. There's a reason this is in here. No matter how much I cleaned, no matter how much I compressed the O-ring, sometimes you might have to use a little force. I would just say a lot of less force rather than a little bit of a lot force. Slow and steady, don't break shit. Now that all the injectors are finally in, be sure to plug them in now, but they are insanely hard to get to once you put the intake manifold back on. But also, I think the newer generations have the injectors going over the intake I can't remember, but just don't forget your injector wires. So, injector's done. I'm still waiting for this piece that goes off this way. So I think I can start putting the front and middle of the engine back in. Okay, so this is why you don't use this like copper sealant shit. I don't know what the fuck that was, but the first time I saw this was a little over a month ago, maybe, on an S7, where
the coolant line that the plastic part in the coolant hose that holds the seal in to this hose breaks off, and I can see why now. Too much adhesive. So another thing is, I'm pretty sure on GM cars that is standard, or older car thing that's standard, but not with Audi. So I found with getting to this back bolt that holds this coolant line on, either a very short T30 or a really long T30, and going around this secondary air piping, because that gets really brittle and that can possibly break. So trying not to touch this as much as possible is a great idea. I'm not going to put the water pump pulley on because I still have this O-ring that I need, so I'm going to wait on that. But the water pump is installed, got new O-rings, new O-ring, and we are going to put the intake manifolds on correctly. But while they are off, always take a look, check out your valves, maybe put an air gun down in there, try and blow out any leaves that might have went in. If you have like excessive carbon buildup, this might be a place to do it, but I am not going to do that right now, even if it has really bad buildup, because I just don't want to do it. Okay, got the water pump on. Cleaned out the valves, like with air, cleaned up the mating surface, as you can see there. But right now, putting on the intake manifolds, and as you can see, they are vacuum operated by this one right here. So what doesn't happen, or what happens, is you lift up, hopefully you don't do it, there. Now, it doesn't sit right, you can feel it, it's not tight on either side, but if you simply just push down on the flaps while you install it, you will be okay. Also, don't forget this vacuum line. There might be a connector. There is a connector, so find that. And yeah, connector and vacuum line on this side, and then we'll be ready to go. So this is what it should look like afterwards. Don't forget to route your vacuum lines. Just triple check, quadruple check, make sure your intake flaps are opening. But now all you gotta do, put your fuel lines in. I would put one intake manifold in, put the fuel line in, and put the other one on. I wouldn't bolt the T30s down just yet until you get all your fuel lines tight, and then move on to that. I am now probably going to put the T30s in for the fuel lines and take off the valve covers, ignition coils, and spark plugs, because the valve covers are leaking so bad, and they have gone oh god, this has got the fucking secondary air tube on the bottom, which is always a pain in the ass. But I don't know if I'll be able to show you, but like all this oil is just coming right from the edge of the valve cover. But it's soaked the whole front of the engine. It might be the rear timing chain covers that need to come off and get resealed, but I'm also not doing that unless it has timing codes. But valve covers, spark plugs, and then
T30s on the fuel lines, and then hopefully by then I'll have the connector, the seal, and that hose, and we can wrap this up. Just got the passenger side valve cover off. Everything's looking good. There's minor scoring on one of these cam lobes right there. Not too bad. I wouldn't say perfect, but for 143,000 miles, I'd say that's okay. Not a lot of sludging, if any, which is also good. Shows that it at least had an oil change done consistently. This was definitely where all the oil is coming from, leaking downwise, because some of these bottom bolts weren't even tight. And looking at the valve cover gasket, it's not the worst I've seen, but I would definitely replace it, because I'm sure I could probably just tear this. I'm sure it'll break into a million pieces, but what I did want to show you is this. Got a little squished in there. That could have leaked somewhere, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's just tearing apart. It is always a good sign when your coil packs come out with no oil, because then you would be doing a cam cover reseal, and that kind of fucking sucks. So that's always good. Had to take out the intake for the passenger side, had to take out the coolant tank reservoir for the driver's side, and that gives you plenty of room to get to all the bolts. Besides this one right here, this is where short and stubby comes into play. This is the tool of choice. Right, okay, can we move the wiring? No. Fits right in there. We have successfully gotten the valve covers changed. Same story on this head. Minimal wear, I guess you could call it. Still one shitty bolt right there. These bottom ones kind of suck too. But moving on, we got the spark plugs out. I mean, they've definitely seen better days. Show you one. Try and get one to focus. Hello. So, yeah. Very oily, but we are replacing them with more NGKs. These are pre-gapped to 32 thousandths. Yeah, get the ones that come pre-gapped so you don't even have to think about it. Okay, boys and girls, just to wrap up, this is a new day. Yesterday, did spark plugs, valve covers, remove both the coolant tank and air filter box. Put those back in. Now, before you put the supercharger back in, I would suggest turning the ignition on a few times. Do not start the engine, but just what you want to do is check for fuel leaks. That's what we're doing here. So I open the door, that should pressurize the fuel system. Turn the ignition on, that should pressurize the fuel system. And yeah, just do that a couple times. Make sure all your 17 fuel lines are tight. And another thing with the fuel rail, when you're putting it onto the injectors, wanting to make sure that the injector seals, that top seal, isn't bent or crimped or pinched or anything like that. So usually this would be where you put that felt cover on, but mine's MIA. So just going to remove my microfibers, and we're ready to install the supercharger. Just want to be careful, make sure everything's lining up. sure none of your vacuum lines are pinched. Make sure all your connectors are accounted for. I would suggest start plugging shit in before tightening it down, just so if you're like, oh, I can't figure out where that connector goes, you can always just pull the supercharger off real quick. Make sure everything is, see, like this purge valve, I think this is, it's too under this and it needs to go above it, so take it off again. Don't worry though, it's alright, shit happens. All it is just making sure you do not puncture these supercharger coolers, because each one of these aftermarket is, I think, about $450. I don't even want to know how much one is from Audi. But we are going to start to plug everything in and connect your two front coolant lines right here and start vacuuming the coolant system and see if we have any leaks. That's the fun part. Prime example of why you don't bolt it down first. I worked from the back to the front, but I should have worked from the front to the back. I had this connector that goes to the driver's side vacuum intake manifold solenoid thing. I had that routed right here, but this guy goes right here, and this guy goes under there. So everybody makes mistakes. Alright, got the supercharger back on, got this little plate back in, got the little bullshit things on the side of the supercharger, got the intake all in, got the supercharger belt off, or on, and then found this. The connector decided to say, go fuck yourself. The middle parts that keep the pins in decided to say fuck you. One too many oil leaks, one too many coolant leaks is what I'm going to assume, because I saw these two little blue weather strippings hanging out and I was like, that's not good. So I took it off and found the connector was broken. I also cannot vacuum fill the coolant system because I do not have the hose to suck the coolant in. So I'm gonna try and start it and see what happens. All right. All right, let's see what the fuck happens. Oh, it is in park, bitch. Oh, do I have to... It's yelling at me for... Uh-oh, that didn't sound good. Prime that fuel. Really? Ain't no way. There it is. So one thing it could be is this coolant temp sensor. If it's not reading the coolant temp, it could think that it's like freezing cold outside. Possibly, maybe. This is the first time this has happened to me where it doesn't fucking start. Usually once the fuel gets in the rails, you're good, but I think that might have something to do with it. Not having coolant in the system, that shouldn't kinda perplexed. Gonna scan codes, see what happens. Look at that, boys! We fucking got her! It's definitely due to that. I had to just fucking give her some fucking gas. Smoked out the whole fucking neighborhood, but we're good, boys. So, at idle, it kinda is a little fucky, but I really don't want to heat the car up any more than I already have. Kinda did a few celebratory revs. Gonna check for leaks, coolant wise. Only active fault is for the temp sensor. I was gonna do the oil change, but I really want to get the oil hot and moving, and I'm gonna put some oil treatment in there too and just let it idle. But I really just want to get the coolant in there first, so I know I'm not gonna overheat the thing and have to replace the thermostat again. So probably gonna be another day, but we're making progress, boys. Alright, it's been a while later, but I did just want to make a video wrapping this up. Turned out to be, there was a fuel pressure sensor, and then I can't remember if I told you guys or not, but that coolant sensor was making it think that it was negative 40 degrees, so that wasn't helping. And then I pinned the fuel level sensor, or not the fuel level, the fuel pressure sensor. I asked ChatGPT because I was lazy and didn't want to fucking look it up in the wiring diagram, but asked ChatGPT. It was wrong, so got that right. Runs like a fucking dream. Coolant good. Still might be leaking a little oil, probably from the cam cover or the head gasket. I don't know. Definitely leaking from the upper timing chain covers, but you know what? Possibly even the oil filter housing, but I think as far as the daily goes, we're all right. I think I'm going to try and get some nice photos with the old motherfucking ghetto key, if I can find it. Oh, the old ghetto key. Hold that bitch to the coil to start it, but we are off. I'm not gonna go far, but I just wanted to show you it driving. I'm gonna try and do a nice little brake boost in sport mode. I don't know how fast that was, but it got up to 60, so there's something. Definitely doesn't feel like it's all there, but it is definitely not the S4, and it does, you know, have 144,000 miles on it, so it's definitely a little used and abused for sure, but I mean, it's definitely got more than enough speed to get around people on the highway. And again, I will preach this engine is just, you do your maintenance, you're good. You do recommended service intervals, I would suggest doing 5,000 mile oil changes, and you'll be alright. So this concludes the PCV video. I hope this was somewhat helpful, maybe even entertaining, but just do one final walk around. I have recently figured out that this car ain't worth goddamn shit, so it's gonna be fun trying to sell this when it ain't worth a goddamn thing, especially when it's not even perfect. But hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.